Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 465 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger, the main man himself, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, my man. How you feeling?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. Yeah, same as always, we're going to dive straight into the review part of the show. I don't think there's going to be too much to go over in this first bit. But let's start last Thursday, the 5th of September, just a few hours after the podcast actually went out. So yeah, like I say, 5th of September, Thursday at the Montreal Casino in Quebec, Canada. This one was live on ESPN+. I did think it could have been on Sky Sports, but it wound up not being on Sky Sports. But anyway, one fight to mention over here, the main event, Imam Katiev, certainly, one to watch. He's now 8-0, a TKO for him in the 7th against Ezekiel Moderna, now 31-13. That one for the NABF light heavyweight title, like I say, TKO 7 there for Katiev. On the Friday, we saw at York Hall, Bethnal Green, London, this one go down on TNT Sport. We saw Masoud Abdullah move to 11-0, a unanimous decision there over 12 for the vacant Commonwealth featherweight title against the previously undefeated George Stewart, now 7-1. Somebody's had to go. And of course the favourite, Masoud Abdullah, with the win on points. Also on that card as well, we saw Sam Noakes move to 15-0 with 14 of them inside the distance. This was knockout number 14. His opponent, Gianluca Seglia, is now 21-5 with a draw. I think his corner retired him after the 8th round. He didn't come out for round 9. A defence successful of Noakes' EBU European lightweight title. Good fight. I think, Sam Noakes had to be patient. He slowly started to break his opponent down, and obviously the Italian was game. He was game early on. He was game, but I think the fight was being beaten out of him. He took a lot of big shots. He come back with some decent ones himself, but ultimately, you just can't stand in front of Sam Noakes in that York Hall ring and take those punches unless your name's Yvonne Mendy. So, good win for Sam Noakes. Happy for him, obviously. Absolute top quality guy. Moving now to the Pechanga Resort and Casino in California, USA. This one was also on DAZN. Sorry, the other one was on TNT, that Frank Warren card there with Sam Noakes. But this one was on DAZN. Jose Zepeda now 38-5. A knockout win for him in the second round. He looked really good against Ivan Redkach, now 24-8 with a draw. Redkach down in the first and in the second. I think Redkach needs to hang up the gloves. I think a lot of people probably felt that way for a few years now. Jose Zepeda, on the other hand, a lot of people felt he should hang up the gloves as well a little while back. I don't know what the plan is for him. I still can't believe he never won a world title. It doesn't look like that's ever going to happen now, but it was a nice, good win, and he did look good, but it was just a short appearance from him, and it would have been interesting maybe if we saw the fight go a few more rounds. I think he was still able to, keep his sharpness for that short of a fight, but obviously we've seen him kind of underperform in recent times, and he doesn't seem to be his old self anymore. But yeah, I don't know what the goal is. Maybe they're going to try and give him one last payday somewhere. This was the perfect kind of springboard back into that kind of mix. Moving now to the Olympic Stadium in Cambodia. Over here, Marlon Tapales picked up win number 39. He's got 4 losses as well on his record. A unanimous decision over 10 for the WBC Asian Continental Super Bantamweight title against Saurabh Kumar, who's now 11-2 with a draw. Good win for Marlon Tapales. Moving now to this one that went down at the Brentwood Centre in Essex. This one was live on DAZN. We'll be speaking to the man in just a few moments' time. Elliot Whale, now 11-0. A KO for him in the third against Lloyd Germain, who's now 9-2. Germain down twice in the second round, once in the third round. He had Lee Selby, friend of the show, former world champion, in his corner, Lloyd Germain, but it wasn't enough to get him past this tough test, and this tough test was Elliot Whale, who obviously is a southpaw but managed to score 3 knockdowns, all from his lead hand, his right hand. That was quite impressive in itself. It was a good fight while it lasted, a nice small hall show there, and yeah, I can't wait to speak to Elliot Whale in a few minutes' time. He's a top quality guy. Talking of top quality guys as well, we have to mention at the Winter Gardens in Blackpool, Lancashire over the weekend, we saw last week's guest, Bradley Ray, moved to 19 wins and 1 loss. Of course, that means he's had 20 pro fights. A TKO for him yet again, this time in round 2 against Norton 19 with 2 draws, Ryan Labourne. Labourne down twice from body shots in the second round, and his corner threw the towel in after that. Bradley Ray, you know, he didn't mince his words last week. He said, this isn't the kind of opposition I even want to be fighting, but I did have a big fight lined up, and obviously I think it was with Mark Heffron, it ended up falling through, and you know, to keep himself busy, he ended up fighting a guy who didn't have much notice, and in the end had an awful looking record, but I don't think it's through any fault of his own. But yeah, you know, he's picked up another win, has to be mentioned. And the final card to mention of the review part went down at the Bayou Event Center in Houston, Texas, USA. Another good guy, Miguel Flores, picked up a win here. Friend of the show, now 26-5 with a draw. He was able to beat unanimously over 10 rounds Michael Nelson, now 21-3 with a draw. That one was for the vacant WBC USA featherweight title, so a nice piece of silverware there for Miguel Flores. Anyway, that brings the review part to a close. It's now time to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated welterweight prospect. It is, of course, Mr. Elliot Whale. Elliot, welcome back on the show, my man.
Thank you, mate. It's a pleasure to have me. Thank you.
No problem, the pleasure's mine. So, Elliot, we last spoke back in December. At the time, you'd just beaten Darren Tetley. I was there for that fight. Since then, you've had 3 more fights, all 3 wins by stoppage. You're currently on a 6-fight stoppage streak. Yeah, where's that come from? Because all of a sudden, you started knocking people out. You were going the distance before.
Yeah, no, do you know what it is? I think when I turned senior as an amateur, to be honest, most of my fights were... I was putting people over, giving them counts, stopping them from about age of 19 to 21 before I turned pro. I was doing that anyway, do you know what I mean? Like in the amateurs. And then when I first turned pro, I thought, I'm going to knock all these out. You know what I mean? Obviously, I was at a different gym. And I just think the change of gyms, they've, I don't know, they sort of maybe let me do what I'd rather do. You know what I mean? That mother gym, it was technical boxing, very like good boxing, but a bit more play it safe. Whereas they let me use my strengths at this gym. I think so. Do you know what I mean? I got a bit more confidence in my ability, maybe. I'm not sure. And I think this is the real Elliot Whale. So yeah, it's nothing new to me anyway. These stoppages, I've been doing it since the amateurs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually noticed it in the past that the iBox gym in general, they're not really known for big punchers coming out of there. I remember obviously the likes of Bradley Skeet, the likes of, oh God, that's completely scrambled my mind now. You had the 2 brothers, didn't you? You had the 2...
yeah,
Lewis, that's it.
In the amateurs, yeah.
You had...
They're from the same amateur gym, yeah.
What was the... Johnny
Garton, yeah, there's a good. Listen, they've always had good fighters there, but I think
Johnny Coyle, I was thinking of, yeah.
Oh yeah, Johnny Coyle, yeah, he's a real good fighter, yeah, good fighter.
But again, none of them were really punchers. They were kind of known more for technical boxing. So yeah, I thought that.
And
myself,
I think that's down to the coaching. Not saying that's bad. It's good because they've obviously been British champions and things like that. I think it's just their style, the gym style is more play it safe and box well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is okay, you know what I mean? It's fine, yeah.
Yeah, no knocking him, obviously. Sam
That's not the...
Sam Noakes ripped up the script, didn't he?
He's like the odd one out, but he's doing his thing, man.
Absolutely. So yeah, talking, going back to what you were saying, obviously we haven't spoke since just before the turn of the new year. You kicked off the year stepping in with Fernando Mosquera in February. His record currently, he's currently got 21 losses, but only been stopped still just the one time, which was to you. Must have been a good feeling getting him out.
Well, to be honest, I don't really like fighting them sort of journeymen. To be honest, and I remember when they said we could get you on the Westman show in Telford, and you can fight him. I didn't really want to do it, but obviously it was the chance to show like on a Westman show, so I thought, well, I'll just have a little go. I watched him, and anyone who sort of went twice against him, he didn't like, and he was in a bit of bother, you know what I mean? So I just looked at him and I thought, this geezer, he can't beat me, you know what I mean? I was going to go in there and just put it all over him. I knew I was going to get him out of there, to be honest. I'm surprised that he hasn't been done more times than that, you know what I mean? Because I think when people just sit off him, and that's a journeyman's dream, you know? If you're just sitting off him behind the jab, boxing and moving, they know how to survive. But if you just go in there with the attitude of, I'm going to get you out of there and put it all over them and go twice and things like that, they can't keep up, do you know what I mean? So I am surprised that he's only been done by me, to be honest, but yeah, it's good.
It is good. You then went on to beat Spaniard Joseba Diaz, who was 7-1, but obviously the one loss, he avenged it. You stopped him again. That's a step up. That's a good win.
Yeah, that was a good one, because obviously he avenged that loss about 6 weeks later. So really, he's not obviously unbeaten, but he basically is like a unbeaten fighter coming in the ring. He obviously turned up to win as well, because he had a good couple of rounds. The first couple of rounds was like, I thought I won the round, but it was like he was on it, you know what I mean? And then I just broke him down, and I got him out there, in the 5th round. And obviously my last fight last week.
Yeah, we'll get to that right now. Yeah, the weekend. But yeah, no, like you say, you brought us up to it nicely, that win over the weekend at the Brentwood Centre over Lloyd Germain. Not many southpaws can say it, but you're a southpaw who managed to score 3 knockdowns, all from your lead hand, the right hand.
Money shot, that's my money shot.
Yeah, talk me through the fight, Elliot. Like I said, that's a wild statistic.
Yeah. To be honest, when the fight was made, I've got to give credit where credit's due. Not many people want to fight me, and it was meant to fight for the IBO European title, and he accepted the fight, to be fair, whereas all other people were outpricing themselves and things like that, or just basically saying no without saying no, you know what I mean? Like asking for ridiculous amounts of money. And he accepted the fight. The ball, like, didn't pass him or whatever, I'm thinking, because maybe he lost his last fight. And then obviously the Commonwealth silver came vacant, and we got him on. So I've got to give him credit for, he took the fight like he wanted to fight me, so that was good of him. But I just feel like there's levels in boxing, and I heard an interview, he said he only had 2 amateur fights and things like that, and I know it don't really matter, but I had 108, you know what I mean? And I just thought, he can't beat me, you know what I mean? That's just the attitude I have in my head, and yeah, I just felt like I had done what I needed to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you certainly did. I mean, like I say, it was just, I couldn't believe, the amount of times he was down. Obviously, he had a couple of moments. I think the first round he caught you with a good shot. You came back with a big shot that kind of made him think twice. But that was a really fun fight while it lasted, my friend. I think when we had you on before, you spoke about just wanting to be active, and you felt that it was hard previously, kind of being prioritised, under Frank Warren. There's a lot of guys there. Like I said, you've had 3 fights this year. Do you still feel that you're in a good place with that decision?
What, as in moving away?
Yeah, moving away, even changing gym, just all of it. You had a lot of changes at the same time.
Yeah, I feel like for my career, it's the best thing I've ever done. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I've got 2 kids and that, and financially it's been hard because these fights I'm on are on ticket deals, and listen, it's a hard game when you're doing it this way. The business is just really hard, but these sort of fights I'm just using as investments, and I'm not really too bothered about the money. Well, I am now. I want to start get signed and start pushing on a bit. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like since I've come back, I've just took some good fights. Not really earned a lot of money, but for my career, it's progressed me nicely, and it's got me active. And I'm active against real good fighters, to be fair. Like I think I've had 5 with my new gym, and 3 of the 5 are good opponents, like real good opponents. You know what I mean? So I think just getting that activity back and just keeping momentum going is what I needed, because before I was just so stop and start. And it's like you do one fight and then you're not fighting for 10 months and you're back in. Well, you know what I mean? It's like you can't get the ball rolling. But now I feel like I'm just consistently getting better, and hopefully we can get another one before the end of the year.
Yeah, I was just going to say, talking of being active, I've got a feeling you'll be wanting to get out again before the end of the year. You just said it there. When? Which type of month are we looking at, Elliot?
Well, to be honest, probably December now, unless they can get me something towards like November, December. I'm just trying to think. Obviously, that was my first camp of like a 10 round. I've done 10 weeks, 10 rounds camp. You know what I mean? Like, so I took it toll on the body. Although the fight only went 3, like all the work's done in the gym. You know what I mean? So I want to have a couple of weeks off, enjoy some time with my family. Like I said, I had a little girl, and when she was 4 weeks old, only a month old, I got the call and I had to go back into camp. Do you know what I mean? So I want to spend some time with my family really, and maybe have 2-3 weeks off, and then get back up there and hopefully get out before Christmas. Yeah.
Sounds like a brilliant plan, mate. Obviously, after your win, Harry Scarff's name was brought up. Is that the only name on your radar, Elliot?
Nah, listen, to be honest, I've never really been one to call people out and things like that. But a lot of people do get on to me and say, like, mate, you need to be a little bit more mouthy and things like that. But it's not really me, do you know what I mean? I just want the opportunity. So, really, there's a lot of good fighters, big domestic fights out there. Anyone really in the top 5, 6 in the country, I'd have it with. You know what I mean? I think most of their names are signed. They're on the big shows. You know what I mean? So I'd have it with anyone, to be honest, mate. But obviously, bigger the name, the better. Unless I can get signed and then you become the A side, because I just feel like me now, I'm a hard fight for them sort of fighters, and as an A side fighter, for example, Scarff, he could probably pick an easier like voluntary, do you know what I mean, than me, or do you know what I mean? Unless I get made mandatory, I'm in a bit of a shitty position, to be honest. So I've had to get signed to either come like the A side and then leave it to my team to decide who I fight at. That makes sense. Yeah,
I mean, again, I don't think it's a fight we're gonna see, because it probably doesn't make tons of sense, especially from the other side. But I would love you and Lewis Ritson. I think it's a brilliant fight.
Yeah, that'd be a great fight, because he's like been there, done it. You know what I mean? He's wore the T-shirt. I'd have that definitely. So if we could get that over the line, that'd be a great fight for me, because he's got bundles of experience. I'd learn a lot. I'd learn a lot from him in the fight. You know what I mean? And it's a fight. I watched the fight with Paddy Donovan. I feel like it's a fight that I definitely can win. So if we can get that on, that'd be good, Joe.
There we go. I've kind of just called him out on your behalf.
On my behalf, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, like I say, Elliot, we've pretty much flown through pretty much everything that I had for you. Just before we let you go, my friend, and I do appreciate you giving me a bit of time during this kind of downtime after a fight. I understand.
Yeah, that's all right.
I really appreciate that. But yeah, any closing words for the listeners? If you want to give out social media handles, thank sponsors, send any kind of message. The floor's yours, mate.
Obviously, you can get me on social media. I'm only on the Instagram at the minute, but it's Elliot Whale, just my name. That's the name. So you can follow me on there and have a little look at my recent my recent fight videos and obviously future posts and things like that. I just want to say a massive shout out to all the people that bought tickets to the fight that come and watch me fight last week on the weekend. Sorry. Obviously, like I said, I'm on these ticket deals, so it means the world to me that people are paying their money to come watch me fight, and I really do appreciate them. And obviously, lastly, a massive thanks to all my sponsors, because without them I wouldn't be able to make the move to the Midlands and train and get my career back on track. And I wouldn't be in this position now without them, you know what I mean? Without them backing me, I wouldn't be in this position. I think on the box record, I'm like 53 in the world now, in 11 fights. That's good going, you know what I mean? So I'm glad my career's back on track and we're pushing in the right direction. So, yeah, happy days.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the fight being on DAZN on the weekend was really good for you. I saw a lot of people speaking online. I saw Ellie Scottney tweeting about how, you know, you've been an underrated fighter, and I think people are starting to realise. But yeah, listen, Elliot, it's been my pleasure having you on.
Yeah, I need to get Twitter really, because I don't even see none of it. You know what I mean? I should make a Twitter account really, because I don't see nothing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, boy.
Definitely. You gotta get on there.
So, get on there, mate. Yeah.
But yeah, Elliot, like I say, it's been my pleasure having you on. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Congrats again on another brilliant win, and we'll speak again soon, my friend.
Thank you. Perfect. Cheers, mate.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. We're going to start here with this. I did say on last week's show that we were going to be seeing it on September the 28th, the Copper Bosch Arena. Well, no, it's no longer the Copper Bosch. It's going back to being the Copper Box, because Johnny Fisher has suffered an injury and he's pulled out of his fight. So, yeah, that's him and Andre Rudenko off again. I think that's the second time it's fell through. And obviously the co-main event has now been elevated to the full main event, and that is now obviously Rhiannon Dixon making her first defense of her WBO lightweight world title against former champion Terry Harper. So it still goes ahead, just without the you know, the headline fight. So I don't know how much tickets they're going to do there at the Copper Box. I wouldn't have thought many people would want to still, you know, go there, because I think a lot of people would have been going there to support Johnny Fisher. Now that he's off the bill, he's not only the main event but also the sole, I won't say sole ticket seller, but certainly the biggest ticket seller on the whole card by far. I think a lot of people will be seeking refunds, and it's a bit of a shame, really. I think it kind of you know, it's kind of upset everyone on that whole card, really, because I don't think it's going to be booming like it would have been. In other news, we're going to see a rematch take place, and I'm happy about this. We're going to see Robson Conceição stepping back in with O'Shaki Foster. That one to go down on November the 2nd at the Turning Stone Resort and Casino, live on ESPN. That's great, obviously, because a lot of people who watched the first fight felt that O'Shaki Foster was hard done by, so it's great that they're actually running it back. And, you know, credit to Conceição, I guess, for, you know, giving him that shot, because I don't think he should have ever been crowned champion. Well, I say that, he probably should have been crowned champion against Emmanuel Navarrete, but not against O'Shaki Foster. In other news, Michael McKinson will be stepping in the ring with Talani Mbenge for the IBO welterweight world title on October the 19th at the Copper Box Arena in London. That one to be shown live on Sky Sports. It's obviously a boxer show. I think that's actually part of the undercard, if I'm not mistaken, because I'm pretty sure that the main event is Adam Azim and O'Hara Davies, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, anyway, should be a decent card. It's shaping up to be there. What else do we have? There might be one last piece of news. No, there's two more pieces of news. This one's been announced for November the 16th, which is a Saturday in Saudi Arabia. Over here, we're going to see the main event is Chris Billam-Smith unifying his cruiserweight world title against Gilberto Ramirez. I've looked at the odds already, and they're already out there. You can get, I think it's like 1-2 for Ramirez to win and 2-1 for Chris Billam-Smith. I think that money on Ramirez, that's like a nice early Christmas present for free there. Anything you back on him to win surely is going to happen. I just cannot see him losing to Chris Billam-Smith. You know, Zurdo Ramirez, I just don't see it happening. There's the undercard obviously announced as well. We're going to see Jose Ramirez, former champion, stepping in with the undefeated contender, 30-0 Arnold Barboza Jr. That's a really interesting fight. We're going to see William Zepeda Eddie as well, stepping in with Tevin Farmer, and what's going to be a tough fight for Tevin there, I think. A few other names on that card as well. Oscar Duarte, former opponent of Ryan Garcia, stepping in with Kenny Sims Jr., who is number 1 ranked with the WBA. He's a friend of the show. It's a good card. I think they're working with Ben Shalom and Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy Promotions on this card, the Riyadh season. And lastly, I'm going to come to you here, Eddie, but September the 20th, so not too long to go. Andres Cortez was supposed to be on the co-feature, but he's been forced out of the fight with a training injury. So he was going to be boxing Charlie Suarez. So that fight's fallen through. Instead, elevated to the co-main event, or the chief support, however you want to put it, of the Munguia Bazinian card will now be Richard Torres Jr. and Joey DeWaco. So that's going to be the chief support to the Munguia fight now. Again, the date for that is Friday, September the 20th. So next Friday in Glendale, Arizona. Eddie, I don't want to talk about it too much because I think we'll probably talk more in detail next week. But little secret revealed that you obviously did a bit of sparring with Joey in the build-up to this.
Yes, I did. It's crazy. When I heard that, and I just realized what we were talking about, and then it said Joey DeWaco, Richard Torres. I'm like, hey, I'm actually helping that fight out. I'm actually making sure one of the guys is going to show up decent. Well, kind of. But yeah, I'm working with Joey. Joey's going to be Joey. He's explosive, looking for big shots. Definitely an intelligent fighter. Been he's been boxing for so long. I know Richard Torres is real busy, and he got a hell of a motor on him. But this is definitely a step in a more difficult, somewhat direction. I do think this Joey's style kind of plays into his hands. So, but there's always that shot. You know what I mean? And like I said, he got those boxing skills. So, he's been boxing for a very long time. So we'll see what happens on the night. But I don't want to say I'm faster or better or anything like that. But I just know I have, the experience, the real understanding of not only of Joey as a fighter. So the sparring is more, a little bit better. And it's a little bit tougher for him, but just in general, been around the block a couple of times as a fighter. So that experience will give Joey, and I mean, he knows me, and we sparring is sparring, but I think that experience that I have is a little bit more than what Richard Torres has. So yeah, but anyway, good fight. I'm interested in seeing what happens. It's now funny that it's now been moved up to the co-main. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, last chance saloon, I think, on that kind of stage for Joey DeWaco. All the best to him. That is it for the news. Moving on to the preview part now, and I have to say, there's only 2 cards to mention. One of them is just one fight. It goes down on Saturday at the Mears Leisure Centre in Grantham, Lincolnshire, United Kingdom. It's going to be promoted, this show, by Carl Greaves, friend of the show, so shout out to Carl, very good guy. On this card, we're going to see friend of the show, Callum Johnson, who, of course, is unbeaten since coming back on this kind of surge up at cruiserweight. He's 22-1, no opponent just yet, but he's scheduled for a 6-rounder here. And yeah, that one loss was to Beterbiev all them years ago, in which he dropped Beterbiev and then obviously end up getting stopped. But yeah, Callum Johnson, I feel like he's a bit of an underachiever, really. But anyway, he's back here. All the best to him. I hope he's happy and healthy. And now moving to the big one, Eddie, and I'm going to be coming to you a few times here. We're gonna go here, obviously, to the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA, live on Amazon Prime pay-per-view and various other pay-per-view networks across the world. Let's start with the undercard. Again, jump in here if you know any of these guys. Obviously, you know, Rolando Romero, he's back on the undercard, 15-2, stepping in with Manuel Jaimez, I think it said. He's 16-1 with a draw. I don't know anything about Jaimez at all. Never actually heard of him. I just want to have a little look at his record while we're talking. He's coming off a win last time against Jonathan Romero. That's the former world champion Jonathan Romero, who got banged out in 1 round by Albert Bell. Then went the distance with this guy and lost on points, but then then retired on his store after 5 rounds against Kenny Sims. And also, prior to the Albert Bell loss, he actually got stopped in 3 to Abraham Nova. So that might tell you a little bit more about Manuel Jaimes here. The odds are close. They're expecting this to be not completely a walk in the park for Rolando Romero, I should say. But yeah, I couldn't tell you too much about that, but I do enjoy watching Rolly sometimes. He is exciting, both in and outside of the ring. Definitely a personality made for boxing. Also on the card, we're going to see Stephen Fulton, Eddie, back in the ring. Hasn't boxed since losing to Naoya Inoue, which, unbelievably, that's now been 14 months since that fight. So quite a bit of inactivity. Obviously, that one took place in Japan. He's back here, though, in Vegas, stepping in with Carlos Castro, 30-2. Carlos Castro's 2 losses came at the hands of Brandon Figueroa, in which Brandon Figueroa stopped him in the 6th round, and also a split decision loss over 10 to Luis Nery. So 2 very good fighters there. Carlos Castro's a tough, durable guy. I think this one's got distance written all over it. But it's good to see Cool Boy back. Obviously, Stephen. It's been too long, I feel like, and you'll probably agree with me here, Eddie. He's kind of. It's probably not his own fault, but he kind of hasn't capitalized off the back of that Inoue publicity. I think when he went out there to Japan, I feel like, and even he's been talking about it in Fight Week, he is actually believing he's a bigger star in Japan than he is in the US, which is a great shame. This man was an undefeated, world champion who really and truly was starting to climb into that top 10 pound for pound lists on a few people's lists. And one loss to Inoue, and he's just been kicked to the curb a little bit. But like I say, that 14 months of inactivity doesn't do him any favours, and a lot of people have forgotten about Stephen Fulton. Here's his chance to remind people. I'm happy he's on a big card, on a Canelo undercard in Vegas, but I feel like we need to see something big from Stephen, and he needs to deliver despite that inactivity. And like I say, it's probably not his own fault. I don't think anyone from that Philly boxing world likes to be inactive at all. They wish they could fight every weekend or every other weekend, but it's a shame because like I say, time's gone by and it's been too long. 14 months is just too long.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, I know, but I will say this though, and his defense: when you get your first loss, especially your first loss with a stoppage, you know what I mean? I think it's extremely important. Maybe not 14 months. I'm not gonna say I agree with the 14 months, but I took damn near a year off after the Vladimir fight. I was the first time ever being down, first time ever being stopped. First is the emotional roller coaster that you go through. Being, like, hey, you got the most money you ever gotten. You're popular. You got more popularity than you have, even though it's not the best reason to be, not the best way to be popular after losing a fight. And yes, you should capitalize off it. Maybe schedule something. Maybe get into the media a little bit. Talk to some people. Do some interviews. I do think that could be something that you can get into. But as far as just jumping right back in, I do think you need to take your time and make sure when you're ready to go back in that you're completely over what happened the last time you went there. Because a lot of guys will lose a fight like that, then jump right back in because they want to, either run it back real quick, which sometimes works, but sometimes it's a little bit too soon. Or they just want to, maybe get another opportunity at a payday real quick because, that's maybe the only ones that they're going to get. At least they're thinking that, and they rush back in and get hurt. So I think maybe 14 months a little bit too long. Maybe anywhere in that 7 to 10-month period, he should have been scheduling something, or at least putting himself in position to get into a fight, even if it was going to be with a journeyman. But I do understand it, and it's one thing to lose a fight. It's a whole nother thing to now then be stopped and lose to a fight the way he did. So I mean, it's I understand it. I do understand it, but I do think he should have been back in a little sooner.
And also on the card as well, return to the ring. We were talking about inactivity, but a year and a half out for Caleb Plant, who returns on the weekend. Obviously, he lost last time out on points to David Benavidez. He's 22-2. He steps in with the undefeated 28-0 Trevor McCumbee, who has managed to get himself to 28-0, which is amazing, but hasn't really boxed anyone of note. It has to be mentioned as well that Caleb Plant, in his last 3 fights, if you combine his opponent's records, it's 144-3, and he's been boxing at a high level now, repeatedly, consistently, for quite a while. I mean, I just want to wind it back a little bit. David Benavidez last time before that Anthony Durrell, before that Canelo, before that Caleb Truax, before that Vinny Feigenbutz, before that Mike Lee. These guys are, got a lot of wins. Obviously, Mike Lee, he took his O. He was 21-0. Jose Uzcategui as well before that. He's been, boxing very, very good opposition. But like I say, a year and a half out the ring. I think he's probably 2-0 in the street since then. We've seen a few videos pop up, ringside and backstage where things have kicked off. I definitely wouldn't want to get on his bad side. But I've always had a soft spot for Caleb Plant because obviously the tragic story, outside of the ring, personally with his daughter, always just, when you've got a daughter yourself, it's, boy, it was, I always really liked Caleb Plant. I had him on the show a couple of times back in the day, and I always really liked him. Like I say, I think he's a hell of a man. But yeah, great. Like I say, I'm going off in another direction here, but great to see him back. I just don't know, Eddie, man. I mean, this inactivity could hurt someone here, and it's if it's going to be inactivity hurting someone, it's going to be Caleb Plant or Stephen Fulton. Both men were involved in a Twitter altercation with a troll this week. Someone was talking smack to Stephen Fulton online, and I think the guy that was talking smack was from Jersey, and Stephen Fulton was saying, "Hey, come over that bridge, I swear I'll body you." And he was begging him to come over the bridge. I think it's the bridge that you took me over, Eddie. And Caleb Plant jumped in and was getting involved as well. But like I say, both men been quite inactive. But Caleb, for me, Eddie, I know that he lost to Canelo, he lost to Benavidez, but those guys are a true elite of the elite, in my opinion. I've always rated Caleb Plant. I think he's a tremendous technical fighter, so underrated.
Yeah, man, Caleb Plant, I don't think gets the credit that probably he deserves. Not only did he get in there and fight with those guys, he gave them work. He made them truly have to step it up to the next level to win the fight. So it's like, there was times in the fight with Benavidez that he was, early, especially early on, his boxing skills, the things he was doing. Same thing with Canelo. He was giving Canelo problems, and it wasn't just a walk in the park. It wasn't going to be something that they were going to just be able to do without having some kind of difficulty, something to get through. So you got to really give him credit. His skill level has always been really high, and his opponent win percentage is crazy. On top of just the level, even if the win percentage wasn't is good, I mean, he's still, like, just hearing the names that he's been in the ring with will make you say, "Damn." And he fought those guys in a row, yeah. And this is what a guy like that, he deserves the credit. And a lot of times, I mean, people were just not really ready to give it to him. They're looking at him like, "Oh, well, he lost these fights." Yeah, but he fought, and he's put these people really on notice. And one of those fights with Eddie Durrell, he got like a big time knockout. But
that was terrible. That knockout was brutal.
it was crazy. It was wild, and against a former world champ too. So it's like you just got to give this guy credit, man. He's really one of the elites for sure. And he's going to get the opportunity, coming soon. I think to once again try to prove it and try to get over the hump of actually winning like one of the fights against like I guess the guy I mentioned in the same breath as a Benavidez or Canelo, like a guy that has a belt at the time, and you know what I mean. I just think it's a matter of time for him. But waiting around too long, fighting these hard fights with these top level guys will eventually put a lot of mileage on you in a short period of time. So it's about that time to get to it, and I think that's why even with the layoff, I think he really has to jump in there, not jump in there, but he needs to calculate what it is that he wants to do. But he needs to get in there with somebody again, elite, in and around his weight. Hopefully, this going to get him another belt, an opportunity at a belt, and to make some more money before father time starts to catch up to him.
Yeah, I definitely think he can win another world title, I would say. I think he's just in a slightly unfortunate position with who's at the weight. Obviously, he's boxed Benavidez, he's boxed Canelo. He's come up short against both of them, but as you said, he certainly gave Canelo a good fight. The Benavidez fight, I remember being, it was quite uncomfortable watching the last few rounds. He was taking a bit of a hiding, but obviously if he moved up to the weight above, light heavyweight, you've got Bivol and Beterbiev, so he's just got a lot of killers in and around his weight, and that's the only unfortunate thing. But just below that, he is right there. Like, I would pick him to beat so many fighters at the weight, man. He's a really good talent. Moving up the card once again, Eddie, and it's a bit of a strange one really here. It's almost like a fight that I could have imagined maybe taking place in like 2016. But here we are. Erislandy Lara, 30-3 with 3 draws. It's over 12 rounds here at middleweight. He's stepping in with Danny Garcia, 37-3. Danny Garcia hasn't boxed since stepping in with Jose Benavidez Jr. Again, more inactivity. It's been 2 years and 2 months for Danny Garcia. Erislandy Lara, who seems like he's been around for ages. Obviously, the older man, he's 41 years of age now, Eddie, wink, wink. But obviously been much more active than Danny. And even though he's getting up there in age in terms of being like world level and all the rest of it, he's always been consistent with it. He's kind of changed his style over the years as well. He got a lot of I guess disrespect for being boring and safety first. But in recent times, he started to knock people out, and he's coming into this fight, with some decent momentum behind him. I mean, you've got to go back to 2018, the last time he lost a fight. That one was to Jarrett Hurd, and it was only a split decision. But since then, like I say, he drew with Brian Castano. He got in there with Canelo's brother, knocked him out, and knocked out Thomas Lamana as well, your friend in a round. He's coming off 5 wins in a row, 4 by KO, which Lara's not known for the punching, but obviously Garcia's got a fantastic chin. I would have to go Lara points here, and I just don't like Danny Garcia being up at middleweight. It just doesn't feel right to me at all. I mean, I remember him being at 140. I felt like that was his optimum weight, really. That was where he was really good. At 147, I don't think we saw the best of him. I think we saw him for a brief spell at 154 when he boxed the likes of, like, I think he boxed Brandon Rios at 154, like a blown-up, overweight Brandon Rios. And up at 160, this is far too far, I think, for Danny Garcia. But like I say, I think he's got a lot of toughness, a lot of heart, and a good chin, and I think he'll probably see the final bell. But he's just been too inactive, and he's too small. I can't really give him a chance here against Lara.
Yeah, it's a tough fight for him. Lara's, in the past, especially the way he fought in the past, would have been very difficult for Danny, because Danny is looking for the perfect shot. And Lara's a sharpshooter, mover, in the past anyway. Mover, looking for, picking shots, keeping his keeping his distance, getting around the ring, making you have to really search for him. It would have been a really, really difficult fight for Danny. And then especially when you're talking about going up to middleweight, now your punch has less of an effect than it did, obviously, in the lower weights. So, and I mean, it could be that Danny moves up and his punching power gets better because he doesn't have to worry about, sweating down to make weight. Sometimes guys, you wonder how the hell did he all of a sudden knock guys out even at that? I'm not all of a sudden. I mean, he's always been a knockout guy to a degree, but to then go up to 160, kind of like Terrence Crawford has been doing at 147 from 135 to 147, and all of a sudden now just knocking everyone out. But for Danny to be able to do it would just seem, if it did happen, which I doubt he's going to be able to knock out Lara. But
can I just jump in and just say there's a 7-inch reach advantage as well for Lara.
Oh yeah, and Danny got I don't want to say got the T-Rex arms, but he don't got the longest arms in the world. But Lara, it's just there's so much favor in Lara. But the fact is, if he goes out and fights the fight that we've seen him fight recently, he then gives Danny a chance because Danny in that area he's really accurate. He's a good puncher. I don't know if he's going to be quite the puncher that he was, obviously, at those lower weights now. He's at 160. But he does have kind of power that can get not only respect, but can hurt you. And if you don't see it coming, you never know. So, I agree with the whole, if it would have been about 5-6 years ago, it would have been a much better and more entertaining or more thought-provoking, like, oh, who's going to win type fight back then. So I do agree with that. But nevertheless, still interesting. I still want to see how things play out. Who's going to, what actually, I'm really interested to see what Lara's going to do. It seemed to me like he probably would maybe change up his style because of what Danny does well. And, he likes to pick shots. And I would think it would be, a more intelligent way to fight boxing from range, especially with the reach advantage, making him, have to find you, have to work twice as hard just to get half the opportunity. You know what I'm saying? So I think, I honestly think that, I agree that it's going to be a really difficult one for Danny because of the obvious things, but he is 41. Now that didn't seem to matter, right? In his previous fights that we've seen him in, but hey, you never know. You can get old overnight. That's one. And also, maybe he was just that much better than the guys he just faced. And now he's facing somebody who's going to be able to give him a better challenge. So we'll see. Right now, it's a little up in the air for me. But if I had to pick, if I was, gun was to my head, I would definitely say Lara by decision. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think you can more than double your money on that. Danny Garcia was one of those guys, obviously, that signed to the PBC, as soon as they formed that company. And he was one of them guys that was being paid huge paychecks and only boxing like once a year and at the very best twice a year. And that's kind of how he's lived his career kind of thing. And I feel like even though he's kept himself in good shape, it's not like he blows up in between camps too much at all. But, I just went and had a little closer look here and, one fight in 2019, 2 in 2020, and one of them included the Errol Spence loss. But since that fight in 2020, December, where he lost to Errol Spence, he had just one fight in 2022, and then obviously gets in here in 2024. So he's boxed once since the Errol Spence loss in 2020. So like I say, he had a year and 7 months out, boxed Jose Benavidez, won by majority decision, and then he gets in now another 2 years, 2 months later with Erislandy Lara, up at a weight he's never been at all at any point in his career, Danny Garcia. So, cannot give him a chance at all, I'm afraid, from my from where I'm standing. And let's move to the main event, Eddie. Saul Canelo Alvarez, 61-2 with 2 draws. It's for the WBC and WBO super middleweight world titles against the undefeated Edgar Berlanga, 22-0. I've spoke about this so many times now, Edgar Berlanga. You know, I've never seen someone, you know, come up literally like a bomb. You know, he come up out of his pro debut, knocking everyone out within a round, and like we were just blown away. This was some Edwin Valero type rise, and I don't think he was boxing the same level of opposition, but obviously the way he was banging everyone out in a round was freakish. And then it all just seemed to turn just one night when he stepped in with Damon Nicholson. And it's never quite been the same since. He has, you know, been winning fights every time. Obviously, like I say, he's undefeated. But the element of specialness kind of faded away and has not come back. And I don't think he's looked particularly fantastic since then in a number of his fights. He did look good last time against Padraig McCrory. I give him a lot of credit there, stopping him in round 6. But again, I think he's done extremely well to maneuver himself into this payday, because this was a fight that no one has really called for. It's just happening. And Canelo's obviously kind of picked him. I think it's going to be an easy touch for him. I think Canelo will definitely win, but certainly should stop him. I'd be quite disappointed with Canelo if he doesn't stop him. Yeah, we don't even have to sit here and start, you know, picking at Canelo's resume. You know, you just look at them names in a row. Let's just do it just for fun. Last time he took the O away from 43-0 Jaime Munguia. Before that, Jamel Charlo. Before that, John Ryder. Before that, Gennady Golovkin. Before that, lost obviously to Dimitri Bivol, but again prior to that, Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders, Callum Smith, Sergei Kovalev, Danny Jacobs, Rocky Fielding, Gennady Golovkin again, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Liam Smith, Amir Khan, Miguel Cotto, Erislandy Lara. The names just go on. It's freakish. This guy's resume is up there with the best of all times. Yeah. There's not much to say, to be totally honest with you, Eddie. I know that Berlanga's the much bigger man. Berlanga talks a lot about the size, but he can go and watch that Bivol fight as many times as he wants to, because I did see a clip and he was watching the Bivol fight saying, oh yeah, just a straight 1-2, just a basic 1-2, as if he's going to be able to somehow pull that off. We've never seen him box like that. He can't box like that. And I think Canelo would never allow him to even attempt it. Yeah, Canelo by KO. And I'm going to say somewhere around the 6th round. I don't think we're going to see the fight go too late at all. Don't know what else there really is to say, you know. Berlanga's been down in the past off of fighters that can't hit as hard as Canelo. And I just think he's too green. And that's a saying that you would probably use, Eddie. I just think he's a bit too green for someone of the nous of Canelo, the experience, the ring IQ, the boxing knowledge, and obviously Canelo can pretty much do it all. And just when he looked like he might have been slowing down a little bit when he lost to Bivol, he's come back with a vengeance since then and looking as good as he's ever looked.
100%, man. I mean, it's a lot of these guys, and I even look at Terrence Crawford, great as he's been and some things he's done. Once you step in there with a guy to that level, and I'm not saying that Terrence Crawford's not at that level, just at his weight, but once you step up to that level, and for Terrence Crawford, it would be weight, not necessarily the skill or the experience, because I think Terrence Crawford's comparable to what Canelo is at his weight class, but Berlanga just doesn't have that experience to this degree. He hasn't had the level of competition, obviously. He's not felt anything like what Canelo's going to bring to him. And it's not to say that he's not great. He may end up going out there and proving us all wrong. But just in the off chance that it doesn't happen, which I think is probably the reality, it's not, you know what I mean? The real, what is really going to happen is experience, skill, ring IQ, all of those things you mentioned is what's going to make the difference. It's things that you need when you're being in the ring for a long period of time and having the ability and overtime too. Oh, then have it to you know what I mean? I just think Berlanga, and what's crazy is that he's talking a lot, a whole lot, and he's saying a lot of things. But I mean, look, I guess he's supposed to say that. He's supposed to feel dominant. He's supposed to think he's going to go in there and just wipe him out. He's too big. I'm too good. All of these things he's saying. But he's got to respect where Canelo's been. And I think a lot of these guys say that before they get in the ring with him. And as soon as they get in and they feel those first few shots, I remember hearing Charlo say, like he was talking, not in the press conference, but more so when they were just like, I guess they had the cameras on and they were like riding back after the weigh-in. He's like, oh yeah, or not only if it was the weigh-in, I can't remember. He just looks small, man. It's like he looks smaller than the guys at 54. And it's all, I'm like, stop looking at size and using that as a determining factor all the time when you're talking about this guy. He's been at that weight. He's been at 68 and different in those weights for a while now. You know what I mean? You see the respect he gets when he hits these guys. You see the knockouts. All of these things are happening. So don't fall in love with the idea that he's a small guy. That's the problem. And looking at his size and you're forgetting what he's done. Look at his resume. Respect what's going on. Go in there and give your best effort, but don't ever go in. And I don't think he's going to go in with the idea, oh, he's just small, I'm going to wipe him out. He's going to go in with confidence, but I think deep down he understands he needs to respect what he's getting in there with. But if he doesn't, then it's not going to get to the 6th round. I think it's going to go much sooner. If he just goes in there thinking it's going to be a walk in the park, he's going to get knocked out early. But I agree, Joe. I was actually about to echo that 6th round thing. I was going to say 6. I think by the middle rounds he would have it all figured out. Probably sooner, but maybe he might want to, punish the kid a little bit more for talking. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. There we go, though. That brings the preview part to a close. In part 1, we did the review part. Then we welcomed this week's special guest, the undefeated welterweight prospect, Mr. Elliot Whale. In part 2, we did the news, then we did the preview part just there. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this brings episode 465 of the BoxHard Podcast to a close. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive shout out to this week's special guest, the welterweight undefeated prospect, Mr. Elliot Whale. The biggest thanks of all goes out to you, the listeners. There has been 1 or 2 or 3 pieces of news break whilst we've been recording the show. One sad piece of news is that Shakur Stevenson has suffered a right hand injury and he's been pulled out of his fight with Joe Cordina, which was set for October the 12th on the undercard of Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. So that's a big blow to that undercard there. All the best to Shakur Stevenson. Hopefully a speedy recovery and we'll see the fight rescheduled. In other news, we're going to see the rematch of a Fight of the Year contender from last year. We're going to see Sam Gilly and Louis Green stepping in the ring in their rematch. It's going to be going down on the 18th of October at the York Hall in Bethnal Green. I think that's going to be a fantastic fight, a decent little undercard as well, shaping up there with the likes of Royston Barney-Smith, the likes of Nick Webb, friend of the show, on that card as well. A few other guys on the undercard still to be announced. And also, the final piece of news that we have is that on November the 2nd, we're going to see Liam Davies stepping in with Shabazz Massoud, that one for the IBO world title. It goes down in Birmingham, like I say. It's been rescheduled. It was set to take place in the past, but it's great now that it's back on. And there's no undercard just yet for that one, but a lot of people are very excited for that fight already. But anyway, that is about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we'll see you all again same time next week.